criticised Islamic immigration policies in the UK. His critiques revolve around views linked to these policies. Robinson's position is based on worries regarding national security, social unity and cultural assimilation.
How do you feel about Brother Tate becoming a Muslim now?
How do I feel about him becoming a Muslim? Disappointed. Tate's a genius, yeah? He's a very clever man. And what he's doing now, he's always done. Yeah, he's tried it with multiple different. So Top G, he had Mr. Plenty before that. Have you seen his rap song?
Yeah, it's awful.
Oh, bruv.
Yeah.
Like, I've done some fuck ups in my life, man. I wanted this on the podcast. Say, bruv, I've fucked up sometimes, man. But what the fuck? But so Tate, everything he says. So it's like Katie Hopkins.
Oh, do you know each other personally, right?
I know Tate. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Tate's from Luton. I know him. I've been out to I went out to Romania. I went out there in 2017. Spent a few days out with him. But he's a very and Tate's mentor is a man called Amir. A Muslim man, Bosnian Special Forces from Storm Gym. Very well respected. No one would have... Everyone I speak to, because my friend is one of the main trainers at that gym, everyone likes him, yeah? Muslim, non-Muslim, he's a great guy. Tate, I think, puts a lot of his value, comes from the teachings of that man as well, yeah? And his guidance from him. So... everything as Tate carried on talking over the years, I'm thinking, well, that's Islamic. That fits in with Islam. That fits in as he's talking about what he sees and women and his views on multiple wives and all of these things fit into the teachings of Islam. And Islam also, at this time, is the only group, Muslims are the only group in the UK who will stand up against the LGBTQ plus sexualisation of children. That's the only group of people. They're very principled in their values and they will not back down. Yeah, they don't bend. Islam ain't gonna bend.
Isn't that a good thing?
Yeah, for them.
Because you're similar to you as well.
No, it's fair. Yeah.
You have your...
I respect certain things.
The resilience.
The resilience and it will not bend. You'll bend before Islam bends. Yeah? Your country will bend. Your laws will bend. Islam won't bend. The Muslim community will not bend. I don't know if you've seen this story. So Muslims are protesting outside the schools in Birmingham about the LGBTQ plus thing. Yeah, they teaching boys they can be girls and I sat there and they're outside the schools.
Oh, the teacher said, I want to abolish
heteronormativity. Yeah. So it's about them enforcing a political ideology within the children. Yeah. About sexualising them and changing, and they don't want you to have a dad, but they also want you to be weak. They want the men to be feminised. They want you to be confused because you're easy to control for what they've got planned for the future. So I reached out to that. I went up to the Muslim geezer's house and I thought, you're being labelled as extremist. I'm a dad. I agree with everything you're saying, yeah. But the way they got round that, they labelled them as extremists. The parents were called extremists, and then they got court injunctions banning them from attending the school. So then it's gone away. But that, you're right, the woman behind that education process in Birmingham, she said 5 years prior that she wants to smash heteronormativity. So this is a teacher saying she wants to smash men and women being together because they don't want it. And I said, now they're indoctrinating and they're calling it diversity and inclusion. So no, that's not inclusion. You're not. And with that ain't happening with my kids. But so many parents now are letting it happen within our communities
because of political correctness.
Because they're scared.
Yeah, but the abolishment of heteronormative roles, a lot of people don't know, and one thing I will say, heteronormative and that movement is very different to the homosexual movement because homosexuality has always existed through years of time and apart from regions where the holy books were enforced. When I talk about the trans movement, it all started with Alfred Kinsey, I think in like the 1960s, I think it was, if my memory serves me correctly, and his whole idea was he performed studies.
Tommy Robinson often highlights the dangers related to Islamic immigration policies. He contends that the arrival of people from areas with high levels of Islamic radicalisation could present a severe risk to national security. Robinson is especially worried about the possibility of extremists gaining entry into the UK under the pretense of seeking asylum or immigration. He feels that the screening process for immigrants from mainly Muslim nations might not be stringent enough to block individuals with violent or radical tendencies. Robinson asserts that ineffective immigration measures could worsen the threat of terrorism and radicalisation, thereby increasing security threats for British citizens.
Hello, I'm from Tower Hamlets, and I was, quite well informed about the protests that the EDL wanted to do through Tower Hamlets. One of the biggest reasons why that protest was, so opposed in our borough was because it would have created even bigger divisions between the Muslims and the EDL, who claim to represent the rest of Britain. Well, You said it yourself. You said that this is a Muslim problem. The Muslim community needs to fix this problem on their own. Like, you know, the non-Muslim community can't fix this for us, and that's what we have to do. But then you have documentaries like the Stacey Dooley documentary that goes up to the most radical Islamic preacher, Anjem Chowdhury, and then interviews them. What did she expect to find if she went to, like, you know, a protest or a talk with the most radical preachers at its helm? Of course you will find extremism there. Of course you will find problems. Every time the Muslim community tries to step up to this, we're brandished as, you know, supporting these extremist speakers. But that's why do they get so much limelight? Where are the normal Muslims? When we try to speak, our airtime is taken by these extremists, and you cause those divisions. Well, maybe not so much now, but your involvement with the EDL made these divisions even larger. You know, your protest, had it gone along, it would have helped, in fact, people like Anjem Chowdhury. They could have used that as fuel and food to encourage more innocent youngsters who are Muslim to see. He would have, you know, gone out there and said, look, the EDL came to our hometown and they tried to spread hatred. Sure, your intentions may have been good, but when you brandish yourselves as, you know, you sort of make it tribal when you create groups like the EDL. And then that's what the extremists want. So my question is, after saying all of that, is do you finally admit that your involvement with the EDL actually, in the long run, helped out these extremists?
These extremists don't need much help. Yeah? We've got probably 3 times as many British Muslims fighting for ISIS than fighting for the British Army. I wouldn't really say that it's played that big a factor in the ideology that is resulting in what we see as the cancer that is ISIS. We talk about Tower Hamlets, and us coming there would have created tensions, and that's why we shouldn't have been allowed there. The problem is, they're allowed to walk through my town centre. Yeah? No one stops them. And this is what we see. Yeah? When we talk about Anjem Chowdhury and his group actually protests outside Westminster Cathedral. Inside was not 1,000 Christian men, inside was families.
Robinson additionally expresses worries about the difficulties involved in assimilating immigrants from Islamic backgrounds into British society. He argues that substantial cultural and ideological disparities between Islamic immigrants and the native British population could obstruct effective integration. Robinson highlights problems such as cultural isolation and reluctance to assimilate as potential obstacles. He proposes that without appropriate integration plans, these immigrants might establish separate communities, resulting in social division and conflict. Robinson contends that insufficient integration efforts could result in a fragmented society where distinct cultural groups coexist separately rather than integrating smoothly.
So the situation in Missouri in the US with the shooting of Michael Brown, you were speaking about the double standards in policing which you've experienced, and obviously there are big accusations that the American police have been handling the situation in a double standard way in reference to the black community over there. So what would be your comments on that situation?
I'm not in America, I don't know about that situation, but the way I see it in Luton is it's drawn through religious lines, because they're not easy on the black community in Luton either. We've just got an investigation going on where another young black Lutonian has been killed in police custody. If you look at the statistics of how many black people are killed in police custody, it's very alarming. So when I'm talking about the 2-tier policing system, it seems to be for the Muslim community, because they're still hitting with iron fists the black community of this country as well. So I don't really have a comment because I don't know too much. I haven't been too much on what's going on in America. I know someone's been killed, and I know a lot of people are rioting, but I can just bring it back to here. The black community in this country have been hit with iron fists in the same way we are in Luton. It seems the concept of who they're tiptoeing around. When I talk about the 2-tier treatment, for example, when these protesters wanted to protest against our troops, they were brought, lined up in front of them, and within distance of spitting at them. When they wanted to set fire to our poppies, they were brought to Armistice Day and right round the corner so everyone could hear them and do it. When they wanted to protest outside the American embassy, they were allowed to do it, right outside the embassy. When we had a problem in Tower Hamlets, and we wanted to go into Tower Hamlets to protest against Lufta Rahman and the East London Mosque, which we felt was harbouring extremism, we weren't even allowed into Tower Hamlets. So that's the two-tier. You either have an equal playing field, the rule of law has to be implemented equally across both communities, because you get resentment, which is what we see in Luton. And that, not just on policing, issues like when Luton Town were at Wembley, it's a massive football game. I'll stand up because I feel taller. But when Luton Town were at Wembley, a big football game everyone wanted to go to. Every child in the town would have wanted to go to that game. 10 coaches rolled up outside with Muslim children on. And I remember the word went round everyone. The Luton Borough Council paid for all these coaches and Muslim children to go to the game. We contacted the council after and said, what's that about? They said, that's about integration. This is where I go that I get so wound up, because every time they make a decision, it's the wrong decision. That is not integration. Integration would be filling those coaches with black, white, Asian, Sikh, Hindu, Jewish. You let every child go. But the decisions made most of the time by councils are what cause resentment. Many of the time it's got nothing to do with the Muslim community, but the Muslim community are resented due to decisions being made by far left politicians a lot of the time. Many instances I could go on. If you want to talk about Christmas, in 2009 or 10 they changed the name of Christmas in like 5-6 cities to Winter Festival. There's not one Muslim in this country that cares that we celebrate Christmas. There's not one. Who gets blamed when they change the name of Christmas? I'll tell you who gets blamed, because I live in Luton. When we didn't have Christmas lights last year, I'll tell you what everyone's saying. Everyone's blaming the Muslims. It's got nothing to do with the Muslims. So decisions are made by councillors, and the best way, this is one of the things I wanted to look at doing when I left the English Defence League. You see, to reinstill pride in working class kids, in working class communities, if you reinstill pride in that community, you're halfway to defeating a lot of the problems. They're less susceptible to be drawn to extremism, things like that, if they have pride in who they are and their identity. The best way to defend our identity and our culture is for Muslims to help us.
Economic impacts are another significant worry for Robinson. He contends that Islamic immigration policies might place a heavy demand on public resources and services. Robinson criticises the financial pressure on the UK to support new services. He maintains that the economic burden of accommodating a substantial influx of immigrants from Islamic countries could be considerable, especially during periods of economic difficulty. Robinson thinks it is essential to prioritise the needs of existing citizens and manage public resources more prudently to tackle these economic issues.
What's the connection? How does you and Tommy Robinson come about?
Yeah, we're both from Luton, so we both know each other, and we've always kind of known each other. And I've always understood his patriotism and his desire to have the UK a Christian country and full of English people. I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think it's ever bad to be patriotic about the place you're born from. But obviously, I completely disagree with him on Islam now. At the time, I'm not going to say I agreed with him, but I understood his points. But I really look forward to having a conversation with Tommy. That'll be a really interesting podcast, because I think he has a lot to learn still, I believe. Let me say this in a very diplomatic way. He talks about, the indoctrination of children and how the country's failing and all these things. And he's trying to find the opposite force to contest these things. And the opposite force to evil is always going to be good, which is God. And I'd like to think he believes in God, but I guess he's a Christian, which is fine. But if the Christian church has no teeth, if the Christian God isn't feared, how can it be God? How can you have a God you can mock? How can you mock God and nothing happen? How's that God? Is that the God you believe in? It's not the God I believe in. So I think he's going to have to accept that there's a logic fail somewhere in his thinking. If he wants a good force to oppose evil, and he accepts that must be God, then the God must be powerful. It can't be a weak God. So how can you say it's not Islam? But we'll see. We'll talk to him about it. It'll be interesting. It'll be an interesting conversation. And I'm not here to convert anybody either. That's not my intention. But yeah, Tommy's saying a lot of the problems with England is Islam. And maybe for a time I would maybe thought he had a point when it comes to patriotism and that kind of thing. But I must disagree with him, because it's the Muslims who are protesting against the indoctrination of children. It is the Christians that put him in jail. Muslims didn't put him in jail. Christians put him in jail. Yeah, I look forward to talking to Tommy. I don't want to give away all my talking points now, but it was the white Christian judge that put him in jail.
Tommy Robinson's position is also shaped by his wider political and ideological perspectives. That Islamic immigration might alter the cultural and demographic landscape of the UK, which he believes could harm British traditions and values. He argues that safeguarding the UK's national identity demands careful control of immigration policies, especially to maintain cultural cohesion amidst diverse and potentially conflicting ideologies.
You say that you've now reformed the way within which you're working, now working with groups such as Kilium and trying to work with Muslims in particular. But my question to you is, why 6 or 7 years ago did you not think that the way to tackle these issues then would be to sit down and talk with Muslims, or within a liberal democracy to lobby your government for the way that your government is for example, enacting in foreign policy and the Western involvement in the Middle East that is perpetuating extremism. Instead, you chose to take to the streets and to lead a racist, fascist organization and to, continue to confound Islamophobia. But now you've had this change of heart. So why not do that 7 years ago, and what's changed?
You talk about reform myself and have a change of heart. Who wanted to talk to me 6 years ago? 5 years ago? Who wanted to talk to us? As I've told you, we tried to talk to our council. No one wanted to sit down and talk to us. And sort of a bit of a myth is that I've changed what I'm saying. And I wasn't open to dialogue anyway. I was. I mean, many imams I've met over the years whilst leading the English Defence League. Well, one meeting nearly got me killed because I met with the imam from Dewsbury. He come down to see me 4 days before the English Defence League demonstration. Remember, this is a demonstration where Muslims plan to blow everyone up with bombs. But I've been open for dialogue, and you're asking what's changed. You said a fascist and racist organisation as well. And you also mentioned Islamophobia. I think quite a lot of the things we fear are rational. I think they are rational. Because a phobia is an irrational fear. So I don't think it's right to just, again, brandish people who have genuine concerns and fears as being Islamophobic.
You make a distinction between extremist Muslims and the general Muslims. You say, there are plenty of Muslims who are not bad Muslims, right? Like you were saying that earlier. But in that video that you showed, when that individual went to attack you in the car, you said, that's Islam.
Yep.
And I have several tweets here, just from 2 years ago, that you said something. I just saw someone planting a time bomb, or as the Muslim woman involved called it, having a baby. You also said, I walked into a library and asked for a book on rape, genocide, and killing, and they handed me the Quran. So these are very generalized, statements about the whole of Islam, about people who follow Islam. There's no separation there between radical Islam and Muslims. And now you make this sudden distinction, but in that video you just showed that's Islam.
Yeah, anyone can. Anyone can Photoshop a tweet, as happens many times. I get told I've said this, I've said that, and many times it's the first time I've heard it.
That's 4 years we talked about the tweets.
That's 4 years ago, is it?
4 years worth of tweets, ending in when you.
I wasn't on.
And then you reopened your.
Well, I wasn't on Twitter 4 years. I wasn't on Twitter 4 years ago. Yeah. When I said that's Islam, what we now use is the frame Islamist, which is someone's interpretation of Islam, which they wish to enforce on society. That's his Islam. Yeah? That group, ISIS, which is what these men are supporters of, that's their Islam. Yeah? It is their Islam. You're better off arguing with them about why it's their Islam. I don't know why it is. But you see, smack in the face like that. Just Google Tommy Robinson beaten up. You'll find picture after picture of my face rearranged. It happens quite a lot. Yeah? The vast majority of Muslims, again, that I meet, don't smack me in the face. But there is an issue. There is a problem. It's a problem that you should be able to talk freely about, or at least oppose without everyone wanting to kill you.
In conclusion, Tommy Robinson's objections to Islamic immigration policies are based on worries regarding national security, difficulties with integration, economic effects, and cultural preservation. His arguments contribute to a larger debate on how immigration influences national stability and cultural unity. Robinson's viewpoint is an important part of the continuing conversation about the future of immigration policies in the UK. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and for more content like this, be sure to subscribe to the channel.